Today, we reflect on an incident from Allentown, Pennsylvania, a case that challenges not only our understanding of justice but also our commitment to truth, trust, and the complexity of human motivation. On the morning of January 10, 2025, LaTarsha Brown, a 42-year-old employee in the city's Community and Economic Development Department and a sitting member of the Allentown School District Board of Directors, reported finding a noose on her desk at City Hall. Given the symbol's historical and racial connotations, the matter was rightfully treated with urgency and seriousness as a possible hate crime. But what followed was not only an investigation, it was a lesson in clarity, humility, and the high cost of falsehoods in an already divided society.
The purpose of this press conference is to provide an update regarding the noose investigation. I want to take a moment to thank the following agencies who assisted in this case: Lehigh County District Attorney's Office, the Pennsylvania State Police Crime Lab, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The Allentown Police Department conducted a thorough investigation, including interviews of persons, analysis of evidence, and consultation with the District Attorney's Office of Lehigh County. As a result of the subsequent investigation, LaTarsha Brown was charged with tampering with or fabricating physical evidence, a misdemeanor of the second degree, and false reports to law enforcement, a misdemeanor of the third degree. As in every criminal case, the fact that a warrant has been issued or a complaint has been filed is merely an accusation. The defendant is presumed innocent until and unless proven guilty in a court of law. I'm now going to ask Captain Milkovich to provide a summation of this investigation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Captain Milkovich, Criminal Investigations Division. On January 10, 2025, at approximately 7:11 a.m., Allentown City employee LaTarsha Brown arrived at her office on the third floor of City Hall. At approximately 7:38 a.m., Ms. Brown notified the Allentown Police Department that she discovered what she believed to be a noose on her desk upon arriving at work. Officers assigned to the Community Outreach Unit, Crime Scene Identification Unit, and Criminal Investigations Unit responded, initiating a criminal investigation to identify the individual responsible for placing the noose on Ms. Brown's desk. During the investigation, video surveillance and building access control records were reviewed to identify city employees present on the third floor of City Hall between the time Ms. Brown left for work on the afternoon of January 9, 2025, and her arrival on the morning of January 10th. Those employees were interviewed. Each was asked if they would provide a buccal swab for DNA testing if needed. Every employee agreed, except for Ms. Brown. Initially cooperative, Ms. Brown later requested that the investigation be discontinued. The noose was submitted to the Pennsylvania State Police Crime Lab for DNA testing on January 14, 2025. On January 24, 2025, a search warrant was approved by the Lehigh County District Attorney's Office for Ms. Brown's DNA, and a DNA sample was obtained that same day. On January 27, 2025, Ms. Brown's buccal swab was submitted to the Bethlehem Regional Crime Lab of the Pennsylvania State Police for comparison with DNA profiles recovered from the noose. On March 10, 2025, the Forensic DNA Division of the Pennsylvania State Police issued a written report indicating that Ms. Brown's DNA matched the DNA profile obtained from the swabs of both the outer surface and inner knotted portion of the noose after it was taken apart. No other person's DNA profiles found on the evidentiary items involved in this investigation. As a result of this investigation earlier today, Detective Harold Bonds of the Allentown Police Department filed charges against LaTarsha Brown at District Court 31-2-01 for the criminal offenses outlined earlier by Chief Roca. Thank you.
Immediately following Brown's report, a full-scale investigation was launched. Agencies at the local, state, and federal levels were involved: the Allentown Police Department, Pennsylvania State Police Crime Lab, the Lehigh County District Attorney's Office, and the FBI. Investigators reviewed surveillance footage, scrutinized building access logs, and interviewed all employees who had access to the office during the relevant window. As part of the process, each of those employees was asked to provide a DNA sample voluntarily. Every single one complied, except for Brown. Initially cooperative, she later requested that the investigation be called off. Yet, the nature of the accusation demanded thoroughness. On January 24, a search warrant was obtained, and her DNA was collected and tested. By March 10, the Pennsylvania State Police Forensic DNA Division reported that Brown's DNA matched both the outer surface and the inner knotted portion of the noose. No other DNA was present. The evidence was clear. On March 24, she was charged with 2 misdemeanors, tampering with or fabricating physical evidence and making false reports to law enforcement. The charges carry potential penalties of up to a year in jail and a $2,500 fine. This is not just about one woman or one act. This is about the ecosystem of public trust, the role of evidence in discourse, and our cultural obligation to tell the truth, especially when the stakes are high. The act of falsely reporting a hate crime is not just a personal failing, it's a societal wound. When individuals in positions of public service fabricate incidents like this, they erode the seriousness of legitimate claims. They risk turning the search for justice into a cynical exercise. And perhaps worst of all, they foster suspicion toward future victims, people who may truly need our support. This is a betrayal of dialogue, of clarity, and of the foundational respect we owe one another. We live in a time when language is power, and when speech, free and responsible, is the foundation of civic order. When someone manipulates that power to provoke emotional reaction without evidence, they violate the sacred contract of communication. Accusations carry weight. They shape public opinion, trigger institutional reactions, and absorb law enforcement resources. False accusations, then, are not only unethical, they're dangerous. The emotional response here is real. Many will feel disappointment, anger, even a sense of personal betrayal. But reason demands we rise above that reaction and use this as a moment for reflection. Why would someone do this? The answer isn't always simple. Human beings are complex creatures, often torn between biological instincts and cultural expectations. Some seek affirmation. Some want to provoke change, even through dishonest means. Others act out of desperation or confusion. It's tempting to reduce people to good or evil. But as anyone who studies psychology knows, the truth is often buried beneath layers of personal history, ideological conflict, and unspoken emotion. Still, acknowledging psychological complexity does not mean excusing wrongdoing. In fact, understanding motive should enhance our moral clarity, not blur it. This moment calls for more than outrage, it calls for humility. We must ask ourselves whether we are willing to look beyond our ideological echo chambers. Are we listening with intensity? Are we engaging in the difficult, often painful, task of self-reflection? This case reminds us that not all who claim victimhood are truthful. But it also reminds us that truth must be established through evidence, not prejudice. In our rush to side with narratives, we risk ignoring the most sacred element of justice, due process. Let us not forget, Brown is legally presumed innocent until proven guilty. The process must proceed fairly. Justice must not only be done but be seen to be done, with clarity, with care, and with conscience. In a democratic society, trust is a public good. It is hard to earn, easy to destroy, and nearly impossible to rebuild once lost. This incident demands more than accountability from one individual, it calls for a recommitment from all of us to the values that hold civil society together. We must insist on careful word choice, on constructive dialogue, on open self-critique. We must be inquisitive, not to accuse, but to understand. To ask, what is real? What is truthful? And how do we, collectively, return to a place where honesty outweighs hysteria? If we do not hold the line on truth, we surrender our future to falsehood. We cheapen not just justice but the very humanity we claim to protect. This is not a story about race, identity, or division, although it touches all those things. It is a story about truth, trust, and the responsibility that comes with both. In the end, the strongest societies are not those that avoid conflict, but those that face it with honesty, humility, and courage. Let us then take this moment not just to criticize, but to correct. Not just to judge, but to learn. Not just to speak, but to listen. Deeply. Carefully. And with a resolve to restore the fragile but essential trust that holds our shared world together. Thank you.